Today, we're building a plane that's never gonna fly, cost way too much, and will probably end up in a crash, right off my shelf and onto the floor. Welcome back to my Scale Model Assassin channel, the only place where building a tiny plane takes 40 plus hours and several mental breakdowns. I turn plastic sprue into flying masterpieces that will never actually fly, but at least they look damn good collecting dust on the shelf. This is the second plane in a dual kit, and so I had to do something different than the first one I built. This one has an aftermarket resin cockpit, which has a little extra detail, but if we're being honest, the plastic cockpit that came with the kit is pretty good on its own. If you pay attention to my captions, you'll notice I prefer to use Tamiya paints out of my airbrush, while I mostly use AK water-based acrylic paint with a paintbrush. While Tamiya paint has worked great for me, it dries very quickly, and that's why I make the switch for the detail painting to something that dries slower. In preparation for the foldable wingtips, I removed the plastic fixed tips. The wingtips have an insert which goes between the two wing halves, and making that flush is the hardest part. I used putty, but then I sanded off some of the rivets and panel lines, so be prepared to repunch and rescribe a small section of that wingtip. With the cockpit finished, I take one last look before it's forever entombed in the fuselage. Like most resin, it's a tight squeeze to make it fit, and I had to do a little extra sanding and thinning of the resin parts until the fuselage halves closed up without needing a bunch of extra pressure. The engine looks nice out of the box, and since I wasn't opening up the cowling, I was happy to use the plastic with only a few extra little add-ons. I did this just for practice. It's the engine exhaust pipe, which will be completely hidden at the end. I'm just experimenting with various water-based paints and pigments on top of a base coat of all-clad aluminum. I was quite pleased with the result and even a bit disappointed that it was going to be hidden. I get started with some NATO black pre-shading, which if you're unfamiliar is a softer black than just flat black. It's like 99% black with 1% gray mixed in. I don't know, just made that up, but it's also what I use to paint the tires. Many times pure black is too extreme for me, and that's why I use different shades of black, as well as this olive green. It's a darker shade of green compared to my top coat of XF70, so it still serves the pre-shading purpose. I don't know how many layers I did, but it was a lot of back and forth, darken, then lighten, then darken again, until I liked the result. By the way, before I painted all this, I sprayed a layer of heavy chipping fluid, and now it's time to loosen things up. Unfortunately, more than a week has passed since I sprayed the chipping fluid, so it will not be too easy to remove. It's been soaked in water, but due to the long setting time, a paintbrush was not abrasive enough, and that's why I'm using a pin needle to scratch it away. It's a little trickier because you risk putting deep scratches into the plastic and paint job, but I didn't really have a choice. It does give you more control over each and every scratch, but sometimes that's a bad thing if you're going for a random effect. As with most planes, you'll want to focus on the points where the pilot would step, rivet lines, panel lines, and any panels that would be opened frequently, like where the ground crew would reload the ammo. I've cut out these circular masks on a Cricut machine. It's got 2 cuts, which results in a 3-piece mask. The large red circle, the white ring, and then the perimeter of the full shape. Takes a few steps and placements, but I painted the red first using the perimeter mask, then used the ring mask to set the red circle mask perfectly center, removed the ring, and painted my white color. Don't forget to paint some exhaust stains on the landing gear doors, since they will be in place where the foam inserts currently are. This zigzag shape, or whatever you want to call it, made me want to quit the model. The yellow decals sucked in color, and they didn't fit perfectly, which is possibly user error, so I was forced to paint it. It's super tough to mask since the fuselage is curved, so you'll never get the lines to actually look straight, except on the 2-dimensional instructions. Once you've gone through the pain of doing this once, you'll realize the challenge of doing it a second time, except now it has to be symmetrical and parallel to the one you just did. I tried to make masks on a Cricut cutter based off scans of the kit decals, and while they didn't fit quite right, I could cut up the masks and get a head start piecing them together on the plane versus just starting with a straight roll of tape. If you're wondering, All Clad Aqua Gloss is my glossy clear coat of choice, and I use it before and after decaling. I successfully peeled the Eduard decal film, although for the tiny stencil decals, I don't really bother. I do feel that it improves the color and look of the larger decals if you go ahead and remove it. When you put the 2 halves of the drop tank together and sand the seam line, you'll lose some of the raised detail, which is simulating the weld lines. I'm adding it back with stretched sprue by melting it into place with extra thin cement. Once everything is dried, I sanded it down as it was a bit out of scale, just too big. Finally, the rivets all needed to be redone, and it's surprisingly hard to rivet a straight line without some sort of guideline, especially on a curved surface. I chipped this just like the aircraft, except I didn't wait a week, so the paint chipped much easier with a paintbrush. I still like to use a variety of tools, including toothpicks and a pin needle, to create the chips though. Dirty it up with an oil wash and some streaking, and now it's ready to be hidden below the aircraft. The watercolor pencils are just another way to pick out the highlights and lowlights. They add some more dimension to the paint job, particularly on the control surfaces, which were made of fabric. Then I follow the rivet lines and individual panels to add some highlights and in effect show a metal surface that is not completely smooth and contains some ripples and dimples in the sheet metal. You can blend this with a mildly damp brush or even a dry brush, because after all, they are watercolor. Also, since the flat clear coat I'm using in the end is water-based, that will dilute it a bit further, so the fact that the color starts out very overdone and unrealistic is of no concern. I'm chipping a coat of gray off an aluminum base coat before I respray it with aluminum again. The varied base will show through in the final result and give this propeller a less uniform bare metal color. The rear side facing the pilot is brown, and I add some streaking with a watercolor pencil. Not shown in this video is when I used a micro drill to make a hole in the antenna to thread the cable through, but I did capture the action on the tail. I didn't decide I wanted to do it this way till the end of the build, but if you're watching this, it's obviously better to do this early on before you paint, in case it ends up being a failure. But I think this method turned out pretty well, as did the whole plane in general. As long as you don't get bored from building nearly the same plane twice in a row, then this is a nice kit. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next build.